Caleb Hammer versus Dave Ramsey. Who's right? Now, both of them have great followings. They give great advice in many situations, but who actually really gives you the results that you might want to create financial freedom? We're going to address that in this show today. Hello, my fellow Ripplers. This is Chris Miles, your cash flow expert and anti-financial advisor. This show is for you if you want your money working hard for you, so you have to work so dang hard for that money. And if you want to become work optional, where you have enough passive income to work because you want to, not because you have to. Guys, thank you for tuning into the show. Again, going 12 years strong. If you haven't subscribed to the show, please do so already. And by the way, check out, we got our book, The Work Optional Blueprint. You can order on Amazon today if you want to know step-by-step how you can create financial freedom decades faster than just slaving and saving away. Check it out. Okay, so as I mentioned, Caleb Hammer, Dave Ramsey. It's interesting because I've seen them kind of both in the same camp. Both of them are pretty ruthless or can be ruthless with callers that call in. However, I was really fascinated when I saw a video between George Kamel, who's part of Dave Ramsey's team, and Caleb Hammer. So both kind of millennials that are giving advice. And I wanted to see how they responded. And you know what? Some of the responses kind of surprised me. So they're doing their little thumbs up, thumbs down. What do they think? Do they agree? Do they disagree? I'm going to add myself in as a third party here. Granted, I was uninvited to their party. That's okay. I'm going to throw myself in and kind of give my own take on this. Who do I tend to lean towards more? Or is there a third opinion that might actually work a little bit better? That's what we're going to do right now. Right now, we're going to share the screen.
Headline from Business Insider: legalized sports betting is wrecking young men's financial futures. So, agree or disagree, is sports betting ruining young men's futures? We're off to a great start.
I'd have to agree. Thumbs up on that one. Now, that being said, I would say this: is sports betting really ruining their futures? Maybe, maybe not. I think in general, gambling can be a bad thing. That's why I'm not a big fan of Vegas. However, if people want to do something as entertainment and they're being wise with their money and they're not getting caught up in the greed and stuff, and they're doing this more as recreational fun, not taken out of hand, maybe it could work. All right, let's see what they have to say about this.
I hate this, though. I hate this.
I know
I
you
hate
do.
this take.
You hate the black and white.
Yeah, it's too black and white. Because I think
your caveats.
if people want to gamble,
whose house are we in?
I'm sorry, we're filming out my studio.
Golly.
If people want to gamble, they should obviously be able to gamble. I think for some people that are obviously younger, more impressionable, brains not fully developed, obviously if they head into something that can be more addictive, there's obviously, higher chances of risk there. So for those that have their life ruined for them, yes, I agree that their life was probably ruined for it. Doesn't mean I think it should be in a legal industry.
Well, this goes back to our conversation we've had.
Okay, you kind of see I'm siding with Caleb Hammer on this one. So definitely something I can agree with him on this. All right, next one.
Headline, this one's going to really butter your biscuits. Market Watch: a $100,000 salary no longer buys you a middle-class lifestyle. So here's the question: is a $100,000 income middle class? I'm going to go, can you still have a good life making $100,000? I'm going to say, yes, you can have a good life.
I'm in the middle.
You're in the middle.
Yeah, if you're
What
in
are your
LA,
thoughts?
New York City, probably not.
Location matters.
Location matters.
Ultra
All
high cost of
context
living,
dependence.
100,000 in LA, you're going to be struggling.
Yeah, San
potentially.
Francisco, New York City, Boston, it's going to be harder. But if you're in
Kalamazoo, could you make it work?
Kalamazoo, Michigan, you would be doing pretty okay. You'd certainly be above the median household income in the United States is $74,000, right?
Household.
So if you as just one person is making $100,000 a year,
you're well above the median.
Yeah, middle class, definitely solid middle class. And then
What is
obviously
middle class? It feels like a squishy thing to even say middle class. It's like if you're not in poverty and you're not the ultra wealthy, you're middle class, which is most people.
Yeah, I wish I knew the definition off the top of my head. But
even with the definition, it still feels squishy. But can you make it work on 100,000? I say yes, especially if you don't have debt. It's a very different ball game. If you're stacked up to your eyeballs with debt, you can make 150,000 and be broke. And you've talked to some of those folks.
If your risk profile is lower, you can properly budget. And that makes you can
on a budget, no
100,000.
debt, you're doing okay with 100 grand in most places.
No bad debt.
Don't even get me started.
Okay. So great points. Obviously, I was going to say the same thing. Location does matter. I would also add personal situation matters. Are you single? Are you married with children? And how old are your children? At what phase are they at? 100,000 can be harder to do depending on the situation, and also depends on your tax situation. If you're a business owner that profits 100,000, you might be able to keep more of that money than a W-2 employee who makes 100,000 gross, but then only takes home maybe 75,000 a year, right? So there is some nuance there. I will agree that 100,000 is middle class. Is it affordable? That's a whole nother story. So again, I'm kind of with them on thumbs up. That is middle class, but it is becoming less and less affordable at that wage. Is it impossible? Definitely not. Many people can live on $100,000 a year and still be relatively comfortable. But again, that caveat is where do they live and their life circumstances.
All right, so here's the thing. End of the month comes around, you check your account, you do the math, and you think, I might have to wait till the next payday. So you tell your wife, or maybe you don't tell your wife. Then you just quietly move stuff around, just hopefully nobody will notice. And the whole time you're just sitting there thinking, I make good money, I work hard, but why is this so freaking hard? Here's what nobody tells you. You're not bad with money. You're not doing anything wrong. You just haven't been told where to look to find out where the money's going. Money's just leaving every single month, whether it goes to taxes, to fees, things that just kind of leak out. And here's the kicker. Nobody's been paid to even tell you about it. What if you could find an extra $2,000 a month without having to work harder, without having to earn more money, without having to change your lifestyle at all? All you have to do is figure out where the money's actually going. We got a short little quiz you can take. Just takes 2 minutes. Links below. Check it out. Okay, next one.
Next headline, also from Market Watch. Here's the headline. I retired comfortably on $100,000, so it's not a myth if you can handle the risk. So here's what this is saying. Can you retire comfortably on a total nest egg of $100,000?
I'm going to put thumbs down. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. On $100,000 total, definitely not. I've heard some people, even friends of mine, that said, hey, I could take $100,000 and I can turn it into $10,000 a month. Absolutely not. It's usually people that are trying to gamble in things such as like options trading. And it's usually not them. It's like, oh, there's this other person that does options trading. They'll pay me 5 or 10% a month. Not going to happen. Again, am I saying that's impossible? No, but if somebody's saying I can retire on $100,000. No, if this is somebody young, even maybe you're able to pull off a 3% rule in that situation, especially if they're young, and that's $3,000 a year. That's just not going to happen. Okay, so definitely that one. I don't even know why that's even a question.
Off to a good start so far. I will say a lot of common ground here. Let's see if we veer off the track. MSN. Here's the headline. Good debt makes you rich. Robert Kiyosaki and Ken McElroy are sitting on a combined $2 billion in debt, but they're not worried. Here's how borrowing can supercharge your wealth. So here's the question, agree or disagree. Does good debt make you rich?
Before they put it up, I kind of know what that is. I'm going to say thumbs up, thumbs down, or thumbs sideways on this one. Can it make you rich? Yes. Will people use it irresponsibly? Yes, as well. But Kiyosaki's right. Having that equity, depending on what the debt is versus the equity and things like that, how are you leveraging that debt? What's that do to the cash flow and everything? That's what's more important, is how does it actually affect the bottom line? It's not about whether you have debt or not. It's about how you are able to service that debt and make more off of it. So I'm curious, what is George? I pretty much know what George is going to say. I wonder what Caleb's going to say here. Look at that.
I'm sorry.
You're halfway.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
here's your
I'm
caveat.
bad at this game because that's such a like assignment. That's such a 100% assignment.
That's what headlines do.
You can do good debt bad. You can be leveraged up to your eyeballs and just be stupid and have no sense of risk and just get completely. So no, good debt does not get you rich. You can use proper leverage in certain ways that can accelerate you there quicker. It's true.
But this strategy, would you subscribe to the Kiyosaki method of leverage as much debt as you can?
As much debt as you can. My risk profile wouldn't cover that personally, but obviously some people do it successfully. He's done it
Combined $2
successfully.
billion in debt, that's pretty serious.
Sure, but what is his overall,
who knows?
assets? What are they worth? Because if he's $2 billion in debt, but he has $10 billion of assets, I'm just like, okay.
Okay, next one from CNET Money.
So you see so far, probably with Caleb, I'm more siding along his side, which surprised me, by the way. I've watched some of Caleb's videos, but the more extreme ones, and I was not a fan. I'm noticing I'm becoming more of a fan on this one.
Today's American dream is renting not buying. Not a lot of content.
Ooh, renting, not buying. Rent versus buy debate. I actually did an episode on this on our show. I'll see what they do. I'm going to try to do my thumb the same time as them. So we'll see what they do.
Text there. Today's American dream is renting, not buying. Is this what people dream of? Are more and more people, I guess, gravitating towards renting as a positive thing? I don't think that's true. I can see the mindset behind it. I'm going to go disagree from what I've seen. No one's going, I'm just dreaming of renting the rest of my life.
Yeah, that's fair. The only reason I'm going to give agree is because right now it makes much more sense mathematically to rent than own today with, record home sale price last month.
In certain areas, that's true. He's correct.
Interest rates still quite high. A lot of people, they value being able to move pretty much anywhere. Now you can break a lease, hard to break a mortgage. You can break a lease even if you don't, after a year, you can go somewhere else. Exactly. And if you want to sell the house within a couple of years of buying it, you're likely going to be at a loss. Actually, at this moment, you might get to the American dream a little quicker if you're renting now. At some point, if you want to be a homeowner, absolutely encourage it. Love it. I support it. I love real estate myself, but renting's pretty darn okay. 5 years from now, who knows? Maybe it'll be flipped, but
yeah, I like that.
Right now.
Amen. I have to say that. I 100% agree with that. All right, let's see what the next one is.
I don't know how you feel about this. Inc.com. Donald Trump supports a U.S. Bitcoin stockpile. Economists aren't convinced. So here's the question. Agree or disagree? Is it wise for the U.S. to have a large stockpile of Bitcoin? Is it?
Okay. I think I have my answer. Let's go.
Is it wise to do this? Would I support a Bitcoin stockpile? I'm going to disagree. I don't like this. It has nothing to do with hate against crypto.
I'm going to disagree, but I'm also going to confess my ignorance on it and say that I'm not really educated enough to have a good opinion.
Okay.
On that one.
Well, here's my take. Did you see RFK? He did a speech at the Bitcoin conference, and he said, I want the U.S. government, when I'm in office, we're going to buy 550 Bitcoin a day until we get to 4 million Bitcoin, which is about 20% of total Bitcoin. I did the math. And I'm going, okay, buying 550 Bitcoin a day at today's rate, that's like $38 million. But where's this money coming from? It's taxpayer money.
Sure.
So we're just going to go probably further into the deficit with taxpayer money to buy Bitcoin?
That don't make no sense.
Honestly,
It doesn't.
general, when it comes to crypto, I found my path of wealth and success of building business, investing in real estate, and my low-cost index fund. So honestly, I'm just really not interested in that world. So I haven't cared enough to become as educated on it as someone would want me to be. I just honestly don't give. I really don't.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I'm comfortable with where my investments are at. I don't feel a need to diversify any further into alternative, investments. So yeah. I think we're on the same boat here.
I would add, it's actually not bad to have a little bit of digital assets in your portfolio, but make it a very minimal percent. It's such a non-stable thing. And going to the whole U.S. government, using that in your reserves, that's a big gamble, right? I would not put anything in our, especially with the government who does not tend to be a wise steward of money. I would not trust them to gamble the money into more things like that. Am I opposed to it 100%? I wouldn't say 100%, but in general, I'd say no way. And especially if they're trying to get, 20% of that share. I think there would be an ulterior motive to that, which is they're trying to control Bitcoin so that then the US dollar becomes the leader again. Because the reason that people are using Bitcoin is because they don't want the government involved. They want to have something that's independent of nations, especially those that are running on debt, which is our country. So for them to try to do that, to me, is actually not because they want to stabilize a portfolio. It's more about them wanting to control something that could compete with the US dollar. That, I think, is more the issue there. All right, let's move on to the next one.
Except I don't have any crypto. I'm more looking at my own house. I'm like, will I have pretend here?
For me, inflation,
Cute almost.
All right, here's our last official headline. This one's from Gallup. Americans continue to name inflation as top financial problem. Here's the question, agree or disagree, is inflation really what's hurting Americans' wallets the most? Wow. We're almost like 10 for 10 here.
For me, inflation, we're sitting at 3%, some metrics.
Where they go, I'm also going to be a thumbs down, but let's hear them out.
are showing even less than 3%. So right now, no. Wages increased 3.5% year over year this last month, and inflation is below that. So technically, now wages have technically for a month, don't freak out. I know, because the moment you say this, people are going to freak out. But
Well, also the
mathematically,
overall wages going up or down, that doesn't necessarily reflect on your personal income.
of course. And then I would obviously just say, I mean, I see the spending habits of people on the show all the time. We know where consumer debt is. If inflation was at 9%, even still, I don't think that's going to be the biggest determining factor when someone has $50,000 and 30% credit card debt.
Can I show you a poll that I recently did on my YouTube
Sure, we'll let you show the poll.
community? Because it kind of ties into this.
It's a reliable
Didn't plan for
scientific
this.
survey.
Ready? Like 12,000 people. That's statistically significant. Here was the poll that I did. This is 1 day ago as of this recording. I said, what's the number one thing holding you back financially? I said, is it debt? Is it your lifestyle? Is it inflation / the economy? Is it your income, or is it kids? What do you think the number one answer was
I would say income. Let's see what he says.
for what's holding them back financially?
They probably said inflation, right?
That was number two.
Wow. Okay.
Guess what number one?
What? Which one?
Income.
Oh,
That
interesting.
their income is the number one thing holding them back financially.
It always feels like
That's
you never
32%.
have
Maybe my
enough.
Breakfast Club fist pump.
I feel like that's kind of like just human
If
psychology.
I made more
right?
money, I'd be better off financially.
Yeah.
And we know from reality that that's not always the case.
Yeah.
The more you make, the more you spend. Lifestyle creep.
Mhm.
That's real. And so what we were just talking about is really that debt and lifestyle are way bigger factors.
Yeah.
As far as how we're doing financially, what's holding us back versus inflation or even our income. Do you agree on that?
Absolutely.
Hey,
I would disagree on that. I'm not saying in all cases. I do think debt and lifestyle do have a factor here. But I will tell you this. The reason people are feeling the pinch, because, Caleb quoted the 3.5% wage increase. And he's like, well, that's pretty much about the same or even higher than the current inflation rate. Here's the thing, that consumer price index, the CPI, the thing that the government reports, has been manipulated to a point where it's not in coherence with reality. It's actually completely off reality. This is why if you go to shadowstats.com, who this guy has been tracking inflation since the 70s, really since before they started to alter and play with these numbers. He actually says, no, it's much, much higher than what they're claiming it to be, which is why people are feeling like, hey, my income might be going up that 3.5% a year. Let's just say they're the average, right? But they're still falling behind. Their lifestyle is getting worse and worse. That's something that people aren't addressing as much as they should be. So the truth is, inflation's much worse than that. Now, is this the cause of Americans' problems? No, this is not the cause of Americans' problems. Inflation is a symptom of the problems. The cause is that the government's spending crazy without any real accountability, right? They're just going crazy. And we as a people, I'm not saying everybody, and not a lot of you that listen to the show, because I know kind of how you think a little bit more, because you tend to be higher income, a little bit more educated or whatever. But most people tend to favor, hey, just pay for everything, pay for all the world's problems or America's problems, right? And it hasn't worked. The government, whenever you throw money at them, they just do crap with it, okay? So we don't want that kind of situation. On top of that, of course, if they're lying about the numbers, the inflation numbers, the truth is you need to make more income and more than the national average, which requires you, as a way to solve this problem, is that you have to get better at how you deliver value for your employer, for your customers or clients, depending if you're a business owner or not. However you're doing it, you got to find ways to get more creative, to get to be a better solutions provider for these people, and therefore you can adjust your income accordingly. You might say, yeah, but I work a job. Doesn't matter. I've had plenty of clients prove you wrong, saying, hey, I was able to get my employer to give me raises by doing this, which is a lot of stuff that I've recommended on the show. So just so you're aware, I actually agree with the people more than these guys, because I know they're talking to people that don't have good control of their money. They're just irresponsibly spending. But I know a lot of Americans don't fit in that bucket. And so I don't want to put all of America in that place, because a lot of America is not like the people they talk to. A lot of America are a lot like you, who you've been trying to save. Maybe you don't feel like you're saving as much as you want to be, but you're at least doing something to try to better your financial situation, which is why you're listening to the show. So anyways, that was my little rant on that one. I believe that income
is their number one concern because you feel like that's what the only thing you can do to fight inflation, because you can't fight the government as easily because the government's doing what they're going to do. The feds are printing more money and doing things to drive up inflation. That's the problem. We don't control that. They're controlling it. We can try to put pressure on those politicians and those people, but at the end of the day, we don't have control over that. Income is something we can control. So in a lot of ways, income is not a bad thing to focus on. Okay, rant over. If you've been following this podcast, you're probably looking for great ways to create passive income right now, right? Well, we got you covered here with Central Lending. Central Lending specializes in alternative investments that actually are designed to create steady returns and long-term financial security for you and your family. Now, they prioritize transparency. They love, building those strong relationships, giving you that confidence and peace of mind, knowing that you have your money working harder for you, so you don't have to work so hard for that money. You want to learn more how to do that? Go to centrallending.com and check out what they've got today to create your passive income and wealth creation right now. All right, this one gets juicy because you've heard me address this topic a lot.
That you want to bring up at this
Beef?
time. Yeah.
I don't think so.
Well, you've said things on other podcasts.
Have I?
Like, I'd love to hang out with George.
Oh,
And here I am.
yeah.
We're hanging out.
Well, can I ask you an agree, disagree?
Sure.
Do you agree or disagree that 7% is a safe withdrawal rate?
In case you didn't know, a withdrawal rate is the percentage of your savings that you can withdraw each year while still having enough money to last throughout retirement. Now, back to this incredibly nerdy conversation.
Depending on your situation.
What
and your nest
situation
egg.
could make that safe?
If you have $7 million,
Should we run that simulation?
go for it.
Okay. This is fun. I'm being such a naughty little boy.
Hold on. I wouldn't even play with the situation. Okay, first off, $7 million. How many people do you think that George and Dave talk to that have $7 million saved up? Not many. And most people, in my experience, that even get up to that point will say, yeah, their advice, it was kind of crap after a while. I decided to do this instead, which is usually more along the lines that we talk about in the show. But anyways, I think it's ridiculous that he's trying to go along with this 7% withdrawal rate on $7 million. That's about $500,000 a year. And watch what George is going to say as a justification on this. This drives me nuts.
Right now.
Some men just want to watch the world burn.
How long will I have in retirement? How long before I die?
Well, actually, how long do you?
Well, let's say, the average person retires at
65.
65
Median.
and they make it, let's give them 95. Let's be really
Wow,
generous.
okay.
Is that fair?
Sure. So you get to take out $490,000 a year.
Here's the thing. Am I going to take out $493,000 a year?
If you're following the rule, you are.
On an actual expense level, my expenses are not going to be $490,000 a year of what I need to live.
Sure.
Even have a very comfortable life. No one would be like, I need $500,000.
But we're saying that people can. And we're saying that people
run
can,
it.
right?
Let's say my expenses, I'm going hog wild. I'm traveling extensively.
Failure rate of 51.8% based on entering every year within the stock market
Okay.
history of the United States. A failure rate of 50% for someone and a organization that isn't willing to accept a 2% interest rate on a 30-year fixed rate mortgage, because that's
I love how he's holding the thumbs down thing right now.
considered too much risk. I don't think a 50% risk is considered acceptable.
Well, in this scenario, it's not real anyways, because no one's going to go, I'm going to withdraw $500,000 a year no matter what happens in the stock market.
Well, if they knew,
Well, that's because you put a freaking $7 million thing there. Good job there, George. That's a nice deflection. Why don't we put more like what very few percentage of people have done? $1 million. $1 million at 7% is $70,000 a year with a 51% failure rate. By the way, I try to back this up. It's give or take, depending on how you look at it, right? But still, trying to take it over 30 years, you're probably going to take it more like about 3.5% per year to let it last for that long. So, yeah, that's what it's supposed to be, right? If you have $1 million, that might be like 30, 35,000 a year. You take 70,000, you have the ups and the downs, especially when the down market happens and you pull money out while the money market's losing or your money's losing and you pull money out. It's a double whammy, and you never usually recover unless you get massively just crazy returns to help offset that withdrawal, especially that 7% withdrawal rate. So I see where Caleb's going with this. I massively disagree with that 7% because it has been shown to not work. Are there ways to make it work? Yes, but they don't teach ways to make it actually work. So regardless, they kind of just go on about this. I just watched it a little bit here off the air. It's kind of a dumb point because, again, Who's going to have $7 million? There are so few Americans that actually have $7 million saved in their retirement accounts. So few. Remember, Fidelity had done their study that out of 53 million account holders, 1.1 million have $1 million or more. And if you go into 7 million, I guarantee that's like a fraction of 1%. So a moot point, dumb to even like debate about, well, lifestyle 490,000 a year. It doesn't matter. The fact is that most people, if they try to do that 7% withdrawal rate, to Caleb's point, it's just not going to last depending on market conditions. And especially right now, we're at a market high. If you try to retire now and the market goes down within the first few years of when you retire and you're withdrawing that money, you have a much higher likelihood of failure. When I've run the Monte Carlo scenarios of this, right, run the different scenarios, how this works, you actually are likely to run out of money within 20 years, especially if you go for that 7% withdrawal rate. So I ran my own numbers to do this. You can too. I'll just say this, like the debate they have is dumb, but to Caleb's point, I agree, 7%, and even Dave Ramsey said 8%. And let me add this too. George Kamel did a show just a few years ago, because I did an episode on this very topic about George Kamel getting on the show saying you should only pull out 3% a year. He said this when he was doing his solo show. Later, when Dave Ramsey was talking to a caller, the caller was stressing out saying he doesn't know how he's going to make retirement work. And he had over $1 million. And Dave's like, what do you mean? He's like, well, because George said on a show, you can only pull out 3%. And Dave looked incredulous, like, what are you talking about? I got to have a talk with George. That's ridiculous. You should be able to pull out 8% a year, because if you make 12% of the market, you should be able to pull out 8% a year for the rest of your life. That's dumb. And so he got after George, obviously, and now George is saying, no, 7% works, because now he's like going right along line with his boss, right? BS. I ran that scenario. I even did that podcast on that, taking an 8% withdrawal rate, even with an 8% average in the market, not even factoring inflation, and you could lose money within 15 years. Simply put, just based on those averages and how averages work in the stock market. So anyways, this is one of my big points and one of my biggest beefs with not just the financial industry, but financial gurus that theoretically say you should be able to do blank, and then it doesn't work in practice. And I've seen what's happened in practice. They don't look at that. They don't look at reality. They just look at numbers, thinking that a calculation should just work, but they don't look at how the reality works, especially with the fluctuating stock market. All right, so I changed my mind. I'm going to include a little bit towards the end of this debate, because Caleb starts to make this point I just made with you. However, I want you to hear George Kamel's response. It kind of pisses me off. Check this out.
It would be the same failure rate, or pretty darn close, if someone only had $1 million and withdrawing 7% would be $70,000 a year.
Okay.
So like they might need to spend $70,000 a year.
Maybe.
At that case, and if it's a 50% failure rate, that seems scary to suggest that that's okay.
But again, it's all relative to your life, your expenses. And if you follow the plan, you have very little, you don't have a mortgage.
Yeah.
And so I'm not going to advocate someone up to debt in their eyeballs go, well, you should just withdraw this percentage. I'm going to go, well, follow the plan as part of the plan, withdraw what you need for your expenses. Don't have a crazy lavish lifestyle that's out of your control. If the market takes a real harsh downturn, let's try to limit our withdrawals. Let's ratchet up our budget. That's what normal people would do. Sane people would do that, which then changes the numbers, and we can't account for all of that in our simulations.
Okay, right here, this pisses me off, right? And I hope it pissed you off too, because he's overly generalizing for one. One, he's saying, well, 70,000 a year, it's fine because they'll have other savings, right? Like their emergency fund. He even said earlier in the conversation, he's like, oh, to have like a year's emergency fund, you should be fine. Well, what if you need that year and you have 2 or 3 market down years, right? He's saying, well, ratchet up your spending. 70,000 is not much. Now he implies, well, if you're debt free and you follow the plan, as they say, right? Okay, well, even if you have no mortgage, any of us that are homeowners know this, that you've got maintenance, you've got taxes, you've got insurance, you've got other things that come up all the time, even unexpected expenses that will eat into your 70,000 a year. 70,000 is less than 6,000 a month. This is not assuming you have taxes, because he probably told you to invest in your IRAs and 401ks. Yeah, they might tell you to do a little bit of Roth, but you're not going to be putting as much in that as you did in your 401k. You got to pay freaking tax on that. It means you don't have 6,000 a month to live on. You have less than 5,000 a month to live on. And then all of a sudden you got some stupid expense that happens. You got to come out of pocket $2,000 that month. Now you're living on a lot less. And that pisses me off because it's like, oh, great. What does that leave me? And this is what my dad did. My dad did the same crap. Okay. My dad believed the same thing. I'm turning them off at this point because they're pretty much done anyways. I'm glad they ended on this point, this debate, because it has been a debate, but many people don't question it. Remember, most people are talking about 3-4% a year. Remember, he's talking about you can live on 7%. If you have $1 million, and let's just say you believe the 4% rule, $40,000 a year, after you pay taxes, you're hoping to have $2,500 a month, and you hope that Social Security will bail you out, even though it's going bankrupt, literally, as we speak. We got all these kind of uncertainties in the world, right? And then you have some pompous little guy, and okay, I'm going to back up, okay? I'm calling him pompous right now because he's doubling down. He's not admitting and saying, you know what? It's true. That may not be enough. No, he doubles down, just like Dave Ramsey does. Doubles down and says, no, this will always work. How do you know? How do you really know that's going to work? Do you know everybody's life situation? Do you know what their medical expenses are going to be? Do you know their situation with their kids and what may be going on in their lives? What if their kids have to move back in because they have a horrible divorce or something like that? Or they just need help because they got laid off because things started shifting the economy and now they need help. And you're like, sorry, I'm broke too. I can't help you out. And then everybody's just kind of fending for themselves. And I'm not saying you can't be independent or try to be, but there's times that things happen in life, situations that you're going to prepare for. Having a little year's worth of savings, not going to cut it. You're going to eat into that. You're going to start losing that peace of mind. You're also know that if the market's going down at the same freaking time and you're trying to figure out how to pull out income, he's like, oh, you'll ratchet up your spending. Yeah, really? How are you going to do that? Yeah, like at what point, are you going to stop eating? Are you going to start eating cheaper foods? And that just accelerates your time to die. Well, that's good. You just solved the issue of running out of money too soon because you just ate crappy food and took bad care of yourself because you're trying to save a few bucks because the market wasn't going the way you thought because you gave them a bad number. And Caleb's point is, he's saying like, yeah, but the point is you say 7% should work. It's like, well, theoretically, but nobody needs to live on 7%. It's like, okay, you say you don't tell people that, but you've been telling people that. Or even worse, Dave Ramsey has been saying 8%. So don't give me this crap and saying like you're not, that's going to work. Like you just don't know. And one thing I do believe that George did have right. He's saying you should have savings. It does give you some optionality. That's very true. The trick is though, and this is what I said, like this is where it could work. You could pull out more is if you got probably over 5 years of savings. That's not gambled in the market. That's safe. And then you can pull out money then during down market years and then switch to go back to the other direction where when it's going up, you can pull out more or less as the market's going up. The average market, the market year of the S&P 500, when it's an up year, if you take out all the down years, is roughly about 15% for the last 30 years. That's well within the 7%, even if you have to increase for lifestyle, inflation, and all that kind of stuff, right? That can work. But you have to have not 1 year's reserves, like he's saying, and following the plan. You got to have more like at least 5 years reserves, because what if you have a couple of down market years? Go back to the year 2000. Market went down, 2001, 2002, right? 2000, they said was kind of up, but really that was down as well. You really had roughly about 2 years of down market, but depends on when you pulled it out. Could be 3 years, depending on when you pulled it out, but let's just say it was only 2 years down. Still 2 years, you're trying to pull out that money. If you would already burn through all your savings after 2 years, if you try to leave it only for the up years. Then, of course, as it starts to come back, you're like, okay, it's coming back. Let's start pulling out money. But guess what? 2007, 8 into March of 2009, down market. And so we had about a year and a half or so down. So really 2 more down years in that sense. Now, some people say, well, it's only 1 down year in 2008. Technically, yes, if you went from January to January, but not everybody lives their life that way. Great. That was true in that situation, but there's other times when you might go from March to March and it doesn't work out, right? So again, like I hate when people just kind of skew the numbers to work in their bias, and that's what happens. But you would be running out of savings fast. That's why I would say you probably need to have like 5 years of savings that you don't gamble in the market. That's there for when the market does go down, and then the rest of the money you can live on during those up market years. That could work if you're going to use the market, or you just avoid all that drama altogether. And you say, I'm going to do alternative investments. Just so you notice, like George Kamel said this. He's like, I invest in business, real estate, and then he's got his like little index funds. I guarantee his index funds don't make him rich. It's the business and the real estate that's creating the majority of his wealth, which helps him create that financial freedom that he's aiming for. I don't know if he's even there yet, but I know from my own experience, I got to financial freedom much faster. Well, definitely business helps, but doing it through real estate helped a lot more. And that's because I can take income from real estate. I can actually get higher rates of return than I can in the markets, the stock markets, and I have more certainty behind it. Is it 100% guaranteed? Not at all. Not at all. But there's ways to reduce your risk, put in factors and things to create that optionality that even if you end up averaging 9%, you still do really well, better than a market where you have a lot of more potential losses and pitfalls. So I'm not saying either one's wrong. I'm just saying that, you get these two guys, these two millennials arguing about different stuff. I would say this, between Dave Ramsey and Caleb Hammer's philosophies, I definitely side a lot more with Caleb Hammer. Are we 100% aligned? Of course not. I've got my own opinions, my own experiences and things that I've learned. I had to create financial freedom twice and did it by the time I was 39. So I have experience that these guys don't have. And I accept that. But I also accept that, there's still advice that, as you saw, I agreed with both of them, that all three of us would agree on certain things. And then there's other things, maybe not so much. The thing is, I would say that some of the things that even they disagreed upon and I would disagree upon are the things that make the biggest difference in your life right now. So anyways, guys, fun episode. I definitely always love hearing this kind of things. My advice is this, like if you guys want to go deeper into not just theory and hypotheticals, but actual practical application, if you haven't subscribed to the show, do so. If you want to take it to the next level, guys, man, make sure you go to our website, visit moneyripples.com and find out more there. But anyways, between George Kamel, Dave Ramsey's philosophy versus Caleb Hammer, I definitely side more with Caleb Hammer. I think he's definitely a better person to follow because he's not so black and white, because he looks for those nuances, much like I do. And that is something that creates a lot of wisdom. Black and white doesn't work because your money isn't black and white. It's not a black and white situation in so many situations, especially when it comes to strategy. You need an individualized, personalized plan, and that can vary depending on who you are, what you're doing with your money, and your goals and everything else. That's why you want to stay away from the blanket statement, blanket advice kind of gurus that are out there. Anyways, guys, I hope you make it a wonderful and prosperous week. We'll see you later.